I ranked every pivot move in Pokemon from worst to best. Pivoting moves swap the user out, allowing an ally to take their spot in the same turn. Some of these are attacking moves, and others are status moves that have unique effects. These are all great moves, but which ones are the premier pivoting options competitively? This list is more focused on singles, where pivoting is a lot more common, but being good in doubles as well will only help the moves. Distribution will somewhat be considered, but we are more focused on the actual effect of the move for this one. We have 8 moves to consider here, but there will be 9 ranking spots. Number 9 goes to Baton Pass. Now before you click off, I'm considering Baton Pass twice for this list. This spot goes to dry baton passing strictly as a pivoting tool. Baton Pass would also allow you to pass on other effects like substitutes, stat changes, and even conditions like confusion or focus energy. Dry Baton Pass is the most fair pivoting move and the first one ever introduced. It allows you to swap to any teammate after use. This can let you scout a switch and gain a favorable matchup. It's just a shame that this move isn't allowed in most singles tiers because of broken Baton Pass chaining teams. But in formats that allow it as strictly a pivoting tool, it can definitely come in handy on bulky mons without other pivoting options, to pass wishes, or even just take a hit and swap a teammate in safely. Moving up to the number 8 spot, I'm giving the Cold Shoulder the Chilly Reception. This new to Gen 9 pivoting move is exclusive to the Slowking variations. They tell a chillingly bad joke, something I am very acquainted with, and then swap out. This also sets up snow that lasts 5 turns. Contrary to what some may think, this move has neutral priority and not negative priority, differentiating itself from another pivoting move we will see in a bit. This is still a great pivoting option, especially on these users who have access to the amazing regenerator ability. Setting up snow doesn't directly help Slowking, but it can definitely be a useful addition to snow teams as an alternative setter, or on teams that don't want to fully commit to that archetype but have an ice type or two that would just benefit from having the weather up. On to spot 7, we see our first attacking pivoting move in Flip Turn. It feels wrong putting such a great move lower on a list, but the other moves just stand a bit above this one. Flip Turn has 60 base power and sports the water typing. It attacks the target and swaps the user out. This is a handy move on fast mons like Barraskewda, the Basculegion and Floatzel lines, and Palafin to get off decent stab damage while scurrying to safety. On slower pivots like Swampert, Alomomola, and Vaporeon, it can be used to get a preferred matchup and safely pass a wish in Alomomola in Vaporeon's case. This overall is a great move, with the main downsides being a bit weaker than the other pivoting attacks we will see later, as well as making contact to trigger harmful effects and being blocked by a few water immunity abilities. In spot number 6, I have the move Teleport. This was pretty much tied with Flip Turn for me, so I will accept any argument saying Flip Turn is a better move, but Teleport finds itself above the other moves for its unique trait of being -6 priority. It actually wasn't even able to be used as a pivoting move until Gen 8, which is an insane buff for a move strictly there for annoying you since Gen 1 when you were trying to catch a wild Abra. Teleport saw a lot of use in Generation 8 as a reliable way to give your sweepers and heavy hitters a free swap in. What was really strong was a combination of Teleport and Future Sight, as you could set up this strong psychic hit with mons like Slowbro, Xatu, Behemoth, and Solgaleo, take a hit, and then teleport out to a hard-hitting mon. This synergized well with mons like Urshifu, who could pressure psychic types and dark types looking to come in and resist or be immune to the upcoming Future Sight attack, while swap-ins to Urshifu like Toxapex or Fairy types would struggle to take the combination of its hit plus the Future Sight hit. This could force progress in KOs, with the slow pivot being incredibly hard to play around. Even mons like Magnezone would often run Teleport over Volt Switch to be able to pivot on ground type swap-ins, while various other mons like Arcanine, Porygon 2, Wigglytuff, Chansey, Blissey, and Clefable could tank hits, use their recovery to pivot again, or even safely pass Fat Wishes. It's a huge shame the distribution got nerfed in Generation 9. Going to get into the top 5, but just so you know, members get early access to these videos, along with special perks in my Discord. If you want to support the work that goes into these videos for the very low price of $1 Canadian a month, which is like 69 cents American right now, click that join button. There's more perks on Patreon as well if you want to go the extra mile and shimmy up another $1. Thanks to all my buds that support me so far. Alright, up to the top 5. This small list is moving fast as we head to a Gen 5 introduced move in Volt Switch. This was another one that was hard to put seemingly so low, but it did crack the top 5. Volt Switch hits decently hard at 70 base power and has the great electric typing to it. It is the only pivoting attack that hits on the special side and doesn't make contact. It isn't affected by burn as well, which is nice, and can be used to soften up your target, break a sash or sturdy, before coming back in and finishing them off with a stronger attack. Volt Switch can be seen on most electric types with access and is a great move for their arsenal. For one, it's just a solid stab attack, then factor in that most electric types lean towards the special side. Then remember that a lot of electric types don't have amazing coverage options, which frees up a move slot for pivoting. Oh, and don't forget that most of these mons are kind of frail, but consider also some are a bit slower and bulkier, and like the slow pivot. With those notes out of the way, you might see why this move works so well on electric types. But even some steel type Pokemon take advantage of this move, like Cobalion, Iron Treads and Crown, and Magearna. It has a big obvious downside, being blocked by an entire typing, along with some abilities that suck up the lightning, but there's a reason so many Pokemon continue to use this strong pivoting move. Now we were on to spot number 4, which will go to Parting Shot. This was right there with Volt Switch, and I personally switched these two back and forth on my rankings a few times. Parting Shot is a status pivot move that will lower the target's attack and special attack by 1 stage each before swapping. It was introduced in Gen 6 as a Pangoro line signature move, but slowly was distributed more and more, now being accessible to 14 lines. What makes Parting Shot so good is a combination of key traits. It doesn't make contact to trigger harmful effects. As a sound-based move, it can hit through substitutes. It is very rarely punishable compared to other pivoting moves, as Defiant, Competitive, Soundproof, and Clear Body abilities aren't the most common things to see. And perhaps most importantly, the stat lowering effects make it much easier for an incoming mon to take a hit and can present setup opportunity. The downsides here are the lack of getting chip damage over the attacking pivoting moves, and will sometimes be a factor in choosing another pivoting move. But for the most part, Parting Shot is really reliable and annoying to deal with if facing it. It is even prankster boosted for mons like Grimmsnarl and Grafaiai, giving priority pivoting and not worrying about speed. Moving fast into the top 3, in spot number 3, I have the move Shed Tail. Shed Tail is a really powerful pivoting move with really small distribution. The user creates a substitute that consumes 50% of their HP and then passes it to a teammate. It is only available to Cyclizar, Oriform, and Sceptile. The former two got this move banned from OU. Being able to pass a substitute in one turn proved too much, and these two users found use for it in different ways. Cyclizar could Shed Tail very fast with its blazing speed and choose which mon was best suited to take it. This also blocked most status moves. Oriform, on the other hand, could pass slow substitutes and give the receiver a better chance of setup. With the free sub, you could essentially send in a threatening setup sweeper and gain 1 to 2 turns of free setup before your sub was broken. And that could be all you needed to win. Cyclizar even came with the Regenerator ability to regain HP and pass multiple Shed Tails. Oriform was generally limited to 1, maybe 2 Shed Tails, which made it a little bit more balanced, but even when Cyclizar itself was banned to Ubers, Oriform's Shed Tailing shenanigans were enough to get the move banned as a whole. The low distribution unfortunately does make it very predictable, which does factor in a bit here, along with the actual pivoting effect being very limited, which hurts it on the list ranking pivoting moves. It is usually a one and done compared to the spammability of most other pivot moves, but the great effect really makes up for this move's limitations. For these reasons, I feel Shed Tail deserves to be in a high spot, but not on the top. In spot number 2, I have the move you likely will think about when pivoting moves come up. This is of course U-turn. U-turn is the premier pivoting move used on so many Pokemon. It has 70 base power, is physical, and sports the bug typing. So why is it over, say, Volt Switch or Flip Turn, which have better offensive typings? Well, to sum it up in one word, reliability. U-turn is the reliable pivot option. No immunities, widespread distribution, decent coverage, the list goes on. It's hard to find many mons where U-turn isn't a good inclusion to their sets. Even a mon like Zapdos, who would get way more from using Volt Switch, will sometimes use U-turn just to pivot on mons like Landorus. Slow Pokemon, slap U-turn on. Choice Scarfer, of course we're packing U-turn to pivot away from a bad matchup. Support mon, do what you gotta do and U-turn out. There's U-turn cycles you can trap your opponent in. They keep swapping out of a bad matchup, and you have multiple U-turners constantly gaining a bit of chip while staying in an advantageous position. You can lose momentum a lot easier with Volt Switch since ground types are so common, and Flip Turn, while also great, doesn't have the sheer distribution and viable users U-turn has. It's actually crazy how many Pokemon incorporate this move into their sets on the regular. From Uber's mons to OU, down to PU and Little Cup, U-turn has major influence at every level. It's one of the best moves in the game, honestly. And with heavy duty boots being introduced, it's even harder to punish U-turn spam with hazards. I feel like more often now than ever, you'll see the item Rocky Helmet on at least one mon, in big part to punish U-turn spam. There's too many good things to say about this move. U-turn can be considered number one for this list, but I figured I would also include the demon that is Baton Pass again. This time, no holds barred, just pure unadulterated Baton Pass, being able to function how it does in-game without restrictions. Baton Pass by itself is pretty solid, but definitely provides the least out of all pivot moves. But when legal to pass stat changes, substitutes, and other effects, it becomes broken to the point where whole teams are dedicated to baton passing to each other and being near unbeatable unless you are carrying one of the few reliable ways to counter it. This pretty much meant moves like Haze or Perish Song, even the latter being blocked by Mr. Mind's Soundproof. You could even baton pass effects like Ingrain to counter phasing moves like Whirlwind and Roar. This could be used to set up speed boosts for free with Ninjask, baton pass into a mon to set up defense buffs, baton pass into another offensive setup mon, and then finish off with your cleaner. Use a stored power mon for extra insult to injury. This was obviously banned in most singles tier for being uncompetitive and overpowered. It really takes a lot of the fun out of the game. I almost didn't include it as a pivot move for this reason. It feels so dirty to put it above moves like U-turn, but decided to anyways, because why not? Which pivot move is your favorite though? I'm a U-turn guy personally. I know, very original, but I love the move. Special thanks to my YouTube members and Patreon supporters, including Goldbud Mr. Frank Beans. If you want to support me and get some cool perks, check out my link tree out in the description. Plenty of ways to support the channel there. Thanks for watching, buds, and I'll catch you in the next one.